All right, so welcome to another Coffee with the Counselors. Tonight is relationship building, and so we've got two segments. We have adult and child, parent-child relationships, and then we have a section on peer-to-peer relationships as well. And I always like to start with something a little social emotional, something to kind of brighten the mood. I know it's been a long day. And there's tons of negativity around. So today's activity is actually a what is bringing you joy today activity. And so if you wanted to participate, I am going to put the link in the chat right here. Or you can also type it in on your phone, or you can text like it says, and you can just enter in one response about something that's bringing you joy today. The cool thing about this feature is that we will see everyone's responses appear on screen. It's going to create a word cloud for us. This is similar to a tool that I've used in class with students. This is Poll Everywhere. I've used Mentimeter in the past, but Poll Everywhere actually lets you embed the results right into your presentation, so your audience can see those live. So it's actually kind of a neat function that's unique to Poll Everywhere. So I just made the switch to it and trying it out, getting used to it. So, and I'm going to go there myself and enter a response. This is something that we do with our students in our classes at Nettlehurst. And in morning meeting, we do lots of nice warm greetings, things to just kind of change the focus to something positive. So we've got some delicious food. Looks like great coaching session today. Family time. Awesome. So now that we've got a little warm up, we've got someone else that joined us. We'll do some introductions. So I am Amanda Giordano. I am the school counselor at Nettlehurst, and my co-facilitator. I will let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Anna Solis. I'm the school counselor at Oscar Mayer.
And we've got some other school staff on the call. I won't call you out unless you want me to. There. So we've got Miss Williams, our assistant principal at Nettlehurst. We also have Jackie Gustafson, our social worker at Nettlehurst, new to us this year. And then Anna, I'll let you introduce.
We have our principal, Danielle Drayton, on the call.
Awesome. Looks like we have someone added sunshine. Great. So here we go. Someone else joining. Oh, and there they go. All right. Hi, Erica. So we're going to keep moving along here. Thank you for participating in our little warm up. So first section is on parent-child relationships. So I'm going to hand it off to Anna to get us started.
Okay. So, I mean, just fundamentally, I think we all know, the adults that we are, that building a relationship and maintaining a relationship takes a lot of work. And that is also true for relationships that you have with your children. So, fundamentally, one of the things that we want to always build in a relationship is trust. And so when we tell our child that we are going to follow through or we promise them something, we want to make sure that we follow through on that promise. If we say we're going to pick them up at a certain time, giving them the heads up that we're going to be there, and then actually showing up and being on time is extremely important. And of course, there's always room for, making mistakes, but I think that following through on things that you say you're going to do is extremely important. I think that given the times that we are living in right now, I think it's definitely important to say, if they're wanting your attention, if they're wanting your feedback, to be as available for them as possible. And the truth is that we are not always going to be able to do that, but then being able to say, I understand that you have something important to say to me. We can make time for either, after dinner or before bed, just to kind of have that connection. So it's extremely important just to follow through and be available. And one of the things that, and I think when we are working with teachers, we say the same thing, right? Like you want to be able to have 5 opportunities to connect in a positive way before you make one request. And that's sort of um, the ratio of remembering the ratio of 5 to 1. You want to have 5 moments of positive contact, positive connecting prior to making a request, or maybe, giving a directive or a consequence of some sort. So you want to sort of maintain that ratio in your mind. Something that I think we try to share with teachers as well, that you want to be able to maintain that strong connection. And then this idea of floor time. I think that when you think of floor time, you might only be associating floor time with a baby or an infant or toddler, but really, floor time can mean lots of different things for kids at different stages of development. So while for an infant, you've got them on the floor and they're playing with things that they're reaching for and such. As kids get older, you also want to give them an opportunity to have some time to just be in, without planning, what you're going to do after school, or without talking about a homework assignment, but simply having the opportunity to connect, and giving the two people, so a parent and a child, the opportunity to stay connected. Where you're not really thinking about a task that needs to be accomplished, but so much as much as just sort of being present with one another. That is extremely important. And then, of course, you want to be able to connect on their level. So I think something that I try to stress to families when we're talking and about building relationships is this idea that you want to be able to connect and sort of take yourself back to what it was like when you were in 4th grade, right? What was it like when you were a middle schooler? Sort of making those connections and try to connect and try to understand where they're coming from and their perspective. Because I think that as adults, we sort of get caught up in like where we are and how we're trying to reason with our middle school age child, or with our 3rd grader, whatever age may be. We really want to remember that we want to try to put ourselves in the position where they are and approach them from their own perspective. We definitely want to be able to really listen to what they're telling you. And kids will know when you are not truly listening. So maybe asking clarifying questions, not making any assumptions when you're engaging in a conversation. If you're unsure of whatever it is that they're telling you, asking for more clarifying questions, asking for details, wanting to understand sort of what happened in their perspective is extremely important, and something that I would certainly recommend. And then, we're human. And when you accept a mistake that you've made, there's a level of connection that happens when you acknowledge a mistake that you've made from an adult point of view. So like when a kid hears that the adult has made a mistake and you're recognizing that mistake, I mean, not only is it a true role model, but then I think it also allows your child to see you more as somebody that you're making a connection with, and somebody that understands. You kind of, I think you enrich your connection in that way. And also, I think try to pay attention to their body language. So, when they're coming off a call from being at school, and sort of what does their body language tell you? Tune into sort of what are they communicating without truly speaking? I think it's something important to do. And I think, for teenagers, when we're thinking about teenagers specifically, this is what I think about. Like, don't avoid the conflict necessarily. Like, be open to the fact that conflict doesn't necessarily have to mean something negative. Like, a conflict is a varying of opinion. Having the opportunity to sort of engage in that discussion and how you see things differently is something that's important. And really put your heads together to try to problem solve equally. I think staying available and staying present is very important. So even if they're unwilling to open up in that moment, knowing that you are there and ready for when they do want to open up is very important. And as always, like, offer some words of encouragement. So if they are unwilling to open up or unwilling to share in the moment, share this idea that you acknowledge and know that talking about something that's difficult is a challenge, but that you're open and available to listen to them.
Communicating is step one, and communication happens all the time. And then, next you want to start focusing on spending time together, which I think at this time, we're kind of like, we're done with that. We've been home together for 9 months now. But it's really, what is the quality of that time? Are you prioritizing spending time with your child instead of just cohabitating? Have you scheduled any kind of parent child, dates per se? Is there a special night? Do you have a Friday movie night? Do you have board game night? What is that special type of time that you have with your child? Even if it's only a small amount of time, how can you make the most out of it? Can you make sandwich making into a fun activity, or giving some choice to kids and how the time is spent, and making sure that in bigger families, if you have more than one parent, you have more than one child, that you do get one-on-one time, that it's not always family time, that mom and kid have time together and mom too and kid have time together. It's not just like a parent and both of the siblings. There has to be some individual time, so that personal connection, that personal relationship gets built up. um, Showing interest in what your child likes, what your child does, what your child says. As they get older, maybe you get to be that unhip parent who's misusing the lingo, but at least you're trying. And being silly is great. It's a really great way to connect. So don't be afraid to be silly and have fun with your kids. And right now, and maybe it's a little bit harder to build some of the same kinds of family memories. I mean, I know I've heard of tons of different family memories that are being created. Apparently, painting rocks is a thing that's going around, and some of our staff who are parents were laughing about that earlier. But so there's still family memories being made, but retell those favorite family memories, from before pandemic, or even the ones that you've made through the pandemic, to bring light to, hey, you know what, we are still a family, we do still have a strong relationship, and here's an example. So we have another interactive element for you. If you are just getting here, I will put the link in the chat for you again. If you'd like to participate, you can do this on your phone. You can do this on on another tab. Let me copy and paste. And just, what's one of your child's favorite activities that you can join in? Just a second for you to reflect on that, and think about, what is it that is special to my kid that I can do with them sometime. Maybe there's something that you've been taking it for granted. We've got video games in the chat there. Legos. Yep. Video games. More video games. Yeah. More video games. And I've seen people getting really creative with the family activities, just playing with random toys, using imagination to go on adventures. Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a really great escape right now too. Building forts. Yes, I loved that last year. Our I think it was our third grade teachers had, I don't remember, it might have been, they had a show and tell fort day during one of their class meetings. And so students got to show their forts off. Board games. Been building up my board game collection, and baking. Yep. We're getting into that season, aren't we? Awesome. So tons of things that you can do with your child, to have some one-on-one time and build up that relationship with them. Thank you. And so when we're spending time with them, we want to think about presence over presence, right? So being there versus giving them things. You want to be fully present. You want to put the phones away, put the device away, tuck away any worries that you have about whatever's going on at home, at work, in the world at large, and really be present. They'll know if your mind is somewhere else, and make sure that you're listening attentively, because it makes your kid feel valued. It makes them know that you appreciate their opinion, and they're not getting enough social time as it is right now. And so really having active listening from you as a parent is going to mean a lot to them, and build that connection. So, eye contact and yes, nods, and asking those follow-up questions is going to be really helpful. All right, Anna.
Yeah, in thinking about some ways to sort of build up that relationship, I think it's important to involve your children as much as possible in any family decisions that may be coming your way. And of course, you want to frame it so that they do feel like they have a say. It can be something as simple as like, what are we having for dinner? Um, and then maybe whatever is appropriate for your family, but try to encourage them as much in making some decisions, asking maybe about their opinion on something, and listening to what they have to say to support their opinion, I think is essential. Maybe consider having some weekly meetings so that you can all come together and make a decision about some plans that you may have or some goals. Just what are some things that you're doing on the weekend? If you've got some availability and some open time, sort of brainstorm that together. And really setting the culture of trust. Do what you say you're going to do. Honor the things that you value as a family and sort of stick to them. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done, certainly because of the times that we're living in. We're at home. Our ability to sort of do things more freely is restricted right now. But I think given the circumstances, sort of trying to stay to keeping your promises when at all possible. And then practicing this idea of positive discipline. Amanda put a little link on there. She's done a presentation before on what positive discipline is. So if you are interested in sort of delving a little bit more into that, it's an opportunity to click on that and go through her presentation from before. Um, Definitely the idea of reconnecting daily. And even though you are all in the same home right now, possibly, and going to class, all within your same home, you probably spend a lot of time away from each other, even though you are all in under the same roof. So this idea of separation and acknowledging that separation and reconnecting when you come back together. So asking, like, how was your school day? Even though you were physically in the same house, to sort of come together um, when you after school and to have a conversation about how was school, saying hello to each other before everybody goes off to their respective rooms. Maybe it's saying goodbye, like, I hope you have a good day at school today. That concept of reconnecting after you've been gone and separated from each other is important. Um, you know, Refocusing your attention when you are going to be having some time with your children. So the idea that you are going, whatever may be going on, you might have a work meeting that you're contemplating, or a grocery list, or a list of tasks that need to get accomplished, but maybe tucking that away, so that you have some time specifically to spend time with your child. And really the next one, like adjusting your mood. Um, you know, if you were upset about something that you received before your workday ended, sort of that, how that lingers off into the next interaction that you may have with your child. So trying to reset your mood before you begin the interaction. And who knows, they might be coming into your next conversation with, whatever mood they're in from the class that they've just left at the end of the day. So it's important to sort of adjust your mood to each other so that you can sort of move forward from the point where you are reconnecting. And if you're not in a good mood, to be able to just simply say, like, I'm really upset right now, or I'm not in the best moods, I need a minute, sort of acknowledging how you're feeling, also gives some value. And it increases just the way that you're able to connect with each other. Try to maintain keep your connections to a minimum if possible. I know it's really hard, especially when you are, I think many of us become multitaskers when we have so many different things to do. And so this idea that we want to get things done, but maybe just finding some time to not have any other distractions and really engaging with our kids, is really the way to go. Maybe sitting down and just reading a chapter in a book that you're enjoying together, or watching a YouTube video that they wanted to share with you, or playing a little bit of the video game that they've been trying to show you. playing one round of a board game, just sort of making time for those little things to be able to connect on a daily basis.
And another thing too is that, we have some students, we have some kids who really struggle with transition, and having set routines can make that a little bit easier for them to manage. And so building up that routine of, like, when you get home from school, it's going to be a hug and a talk about your day, or it's going to be I'll, make you a snack, or we'll make a snack together. If that becomes part of the routine, it'll make it easier for them to transition from the one setting to the next, or one activity to the next. Just that predictability can be really helpful, and then they'll view you as part of that safe space, and that routine that helps them adjust. So even strengthening your relationship that way too.
I think that this is an important piece of advice for any parent. I think this idea that you don't want to take things personally, even if you feel. I mean, I think for teenagers, when I talk to a lot of parents and sort of that developmentally what happens when you become a middle schooler, and your interactions and how you interact with your parents, I think is extremely important to acknowledge, and they are developing and growing, and it's just part of what it is to be a pre-adolescent and an adolescent. So this notion that you can have a rocky moment with your child, but then this idea that how are you going to be able to regulate those emotions, each of you individually. I think that that's something to definitely consider. And I think that as adults, we have to remember that it's not necessarily about us. And it's always, I think that something that we need to stay present with is the idea that they are living their lives too, as children, as students, as classmates. And so sometimes there are some challenges that come along with the lives that they're living daily in front of a computer these days. Other times when we're in school, they are faced with those other challenges that come with being live at school, but understanding that their mood and the way that they respond to you is also impacted by the interactions that they've had with others throughout the day. Um, and so I think that that is extremely important to remember, because I think that that's sometimes we forget. So when I say you want to travel back in time and sort of put yourself in the position where your children are right now, like kind of travel back to those earlier years for you, I think that that's really important. This idea that I'm going to empathize with what they're feeling because I know what it's like to be a middle schooler. I think that that's really important. And, like, kids feel the safest at home. So you want to maintain and strengthen that safe space. And even though there are some moments where things are challenging, how to overcome those challenges and come back together with this consistent reconnection, that we want to encourage you to have. And then, I think that kids want to be able to know that no matter what, they have you unconditionally, and just reminding them that they, no matter what, they have you. And I think that that's a way to sort of come back and reconnect with them, even after things get a little challenging.
Okay, so as we are getting ready to wrap up the first part about parent-child relationships, we're going to ask you to do one more interactive activity. And it's not really interactive, it's just you stopping to think for a minute about, just think of a date when you can do something special with your child. Like, just kind of mentally skim your upcoming calendar. I know it's a busy month, and this month tends to fly by. But I think that there are plenty of opportunities for those special moments between parents and kids. So just stop and brainstorm, set an intention. When you're ready, you can just click that you are done and done, or that you'll do it later. If you already had the poll everywhere open, it should have just advanced to the next to the next one for you. And you will wait and watch for results. All right. Love it. I think so often we get really, really tied up in what's going on, and we don't make intentional plans. So wanted to give you an opportunity to do that. So, part two is about peer to peer relationships. And, um, I think part of it starts with there aren't a lot of opportunities right now to be building those relationships because we're all stuck at home. I know that some kids are in pods and some kids do have uh, some, although I don't know what the state of it is right now, some outside the home, like extracurricular activities. But so for in the meantime, I think that one thing to focus on is fostering social skills at home, which, pandemic or not, you should be doing. But right now I think that's really important because they've had a long road without in-person interaction. And so and it's a lot, it's really complex having a friendship, building a friendship and sustaining it. There are a lot of skills that go into the process. And so it in many cases does require some intentional skill building. You have to be able to handle your emotions. You need to know how to initiate a conversation, which is a really complex skill. You have to focus on timing. Is it appropriate to try and talk to a desired friend in class, or do you have to, would it be better to wait until recess? Walking through the hall, it seems like a good time to chit chat, but not really. And so having those conversations, thinking about if the person's in a group, is it better to approach them, or is it better one-on-one in the middle of soccer or on your way just out the door to recess? Lots of things to consider. You have to be able to cooperate and compromise, and be assertive when need be, and have conflict resolution skills and know when to ask for help. And that's so much for kids, even our teens, to manage. And so you can help them out by role modeling those things. You can role play with your child, specifically if you know that there are certain situations that they really struggle with. Play it out and make it. You can make it silly, make it engaging. There was a child who really wanted to play with some kids at recess, but then as soon as someone would come over and say something that could be taken inappropriately, the kid would explode. And so we role played it. There's another kid who um, there was just somebody who totally annoyed them, but they couldn't walk away. And so we role played. I like fake chased the kid around saying annoying things and encouraged him to ignore me. And you can be really silly with it and help them build those skills that they need. So that way they're ready for in person, but also those skills are going to come in handy in virtual interactions too. And perspective taking is so important. Some kids it comes naturally to, and others they really need to be walked through. Okay, put yourself in the other person's shoes. How would that make you feel? And so there is going to be there's a playlist, a really great playlist of social skills videos I found on YouTube, and they're almost all of them are 3 minutes or less on a lot of those topics that were just mentioned. And so that will be linked in the deck. And then another really great way to teach about social skills is through stories, because you can find really wonderful characters that model all of those pro-social skills that we want our kids to have. And they can introduce kids to situations that might be scary for them in a safer way than having to learn it in person. And it can help them prepare for situations that they might not have considered before. And so these three resources are linked. They're book lists. The one that's on the right is you're going to get access to just the relationships. But the one on the left and the one in the middle, it's actually five different reading lists, and relationship skills is the fourth one. And so there's one for third through fifth, and there's one for kindergarten through second grade. And I'm going to toss it over to Anna.
And definitely right now, given the times that we're living in, I think we have to be mindful of like, how do we create these opportunities for our kids to be connecting with each other? So, you've got to think outside the box, I think, a little bit. And so one of them is find a pen pal. Maybe their friend that they were really good friends with at school and they live far away. They don't see each other. They only see each other on the screen in class. Maybe begin that opportunity to start, writing to each other. Or, like Amanda said, she said one of the kids in her school, they ended up discovering through being remote that they lived in the same building. And all of a sudden they're like walkie talking with each other from one floor to the next, which is really cool. Like just the opportunity to connect in maybe in the most unconventional ways, but sort of finding that connection with somebody that they may have already established early on when we were live and in person at school. I think the opportunity to connect via Zoom or a Google Meet, FaceTime is really important. And I know that we are constantly talking about how much screen time our kids are having, but for some kids, that screen time is the only option to stay connected to a friend. And so definitely consider, reaching out to a parent and saying, hey, let's try to give our kids an hour, 30 minutes, I mean, whatever is age appropriate for them to be able to connect. Because kids are missing their friends right now more than ever. And I think that that is just something that we cannot lose sight of. And I think that giving them those opportunities for an unstructured moment, they are in a lot of structured moments throughout their school day as we are doing e-learning. And so I think that giving them an opportunity to just be themselves and just chat with each other is a really great opportunity and something that our kids are missing. I know that there are some kids, the older students, that sort of come together and play video games together interactively. And again, that's another screen time moment. Like it's more time that kids are on screen, but for some of our older kids, those are the moments where they're being themselves and they're connecting and talking with their friends that they haven't talked to live in months. So maybe, and I think that we have to be mindful, right? So just kind of ask yourself, like, what is it that they're playing? Be aware of what it is that they're playing online. What's the rating on the video game that they're choosing to play? Is the game open to everybody? So can a stranger approach the group that they're playing with, or is it something that's a closed group? So those are just things to think about and ask questions about. But I still think that we still, really believe that giving kids the opportunity to engage with each other is really important. And of course, you want to go through like what is safe to do online. What are some things that you stay away from when you're online, and what are some things that you should be mindful of? And definitely as a family, this is a moment where you would come together and say, these are the limits, these are the boundaries, these are the days that you can play, these are the times that you can connect, but giving them that opportunity to connect with each other in an unstructured social setting, I think is really important at this time, particularly at this time where they're not seeing their friends daily. And then we also suggest, the Chicago Park District and Chicago Public Library is still providing some things that kids can do virtually. So that does open up the door for an opportunity to meet other kids who may not necessarily be at their school, but similar to what they would be experiencing if they were taking a class at a park district or going to a Chicago Public Library. So these links give you an opportunity to possibly sign up for some things that are being made available in the virtual setting. So something to consider.
Yeah, and the Chicago Public Library link is going to take you right to their active list of upcoming events, and the Chicago Park District link takes you right to their listing of virtual classes. And then, even if your kid is attending virtually, if they can get another friend to go, even if they're not together, it's still a shared experience that they can talk about. I mean, I think I've done that even as an adult. Like I did a streamed a concert, and my brother streamed it, and we had that to talk about. We weren't in the same room when we watched it, but concerts are a thing, and it was so nice to just have that to talk about later. And so, I think kids are going to start to run out of stuff to talk about soon enough without having those kinds of maybe shared experiences and new things to talk about.
And here's just a couple of resources, a website called Parenting Connect. There's a section on there on communication. The website AHA Parenting it's got from preschool to teen sections in there that are appropriate for and some really great resources. And then there's an article that's called Playing with Your Child, Games for Connection and Emotional Intelligence. So just some more ideas of things that you can do to build your relationship and connect kids with each other.
Mhm. And then the worksheet that's here is an if then plan for communicating with your child. It's from the Parent Teen Connect website, which I highly recommend. They have, I think it's 4 sections, and one's on responsibility, one's on screen time, and then communication and independence. And they have all sorts of videos from parents, from teens, from specialists in the field, just talking about how to handle difficult conversations, how to handle it when you're butting heads. Just lots of really good advice and really good input from real people. And this if then plan is something that you can kind of fill out. It's actually a fillable PDF, and they have a video on how to come up with the if then plan. They have another one that's it's an if then plan. It's, I forget what it was, something a little bit different about communication, and it's just really practical advice. I know one of the questions that we got from in one of the RSCPs was, how do I make sure that I'm setting my teen up to have those hard conversations with me when they need to later. And I think that website kind of speaks to that. And but I also think that, everything, if you have that strong relationship and you've demonstrated that unconditional support of your child, and you've demonstrated that you're an open ear, when the time comes, they'll know that they can talk to you, that they feel safe. And um, maybe you need to change your approach as they get a little bit older. Maybe they need to write you a note to have that conversation. Like, maybe it's too scary to have it face to face, or maybe they want to text you from the next room to have that conversation. You're going to find what works best for your family. But if you've set that strong foundation, I think that your kid, and you've explained, or you've reiterated, like, I am here no matter what. And you don't shy away from the hard topics yourself, and you don't avoid the conflict. I think it'll be easy when the time comes, if there's a difficult situation, that your teen will open up to you. And that's it. That's a wrap for our relationship building. I know that we had lots of questions about getting the younger kids to connect with other peers, even though we're virtual. I think that is a really tricky one. It's hard because they don't have tons of opportunities, and some of them just don't want to engage online anymore after they've been doing school.
Mhm.
I think that's when it becomes time to get a little bit creative, and maybe try some of those, pen pal, walkie talkie things. I mean, I have to tell you that those it was second graders that discovered that they were neighbors 1 floor apart, and they were just leaving notes outside each other's doorsteps, and they were overjoyed. I happened to be working with both of them, and neither of them knew it, and so I heard it from both sides, and just the smile and excitement when each of them was telling me. So I mean, we think of it maybe as old school and cheesy, but it's novel and a connection. So um and I wish that there was something more to say about how to get the littles connected. It's a really difficult situation right now. So, but I'm wondering if anybody has any other questions, or if anybody has any good advice, because you're on the ground doing it every day. So, we'd love to hear from you. We've got some really great ideas and conversations and other sessions. Okay. Well, I sincerely thank you for being here tonight. I hope that you got something useful to take away from this. I give you all the credit in the world, because it's not easy right now, and we're all tired. Um, but you're doing it. And showing up just demonstrates how committed you are to making things as good as can be for your child. So thanks for being here. If you need anything, you can email me. Uh, you can set up an appointment through my Calendly. I know that Anna has her appointments link there, and so feel free to reach out. All right. Well,
Bye,
that's it.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Take care.